Perhaps you think that I am braving you in what I am saying now, as in what I said before about the tears and prayers. But this is not so. I speak rather because I am convinced that I never intentionally wronged anyone, although I cannot convince you the time has been too short. If there were a law at Athens, as there is in other cities, that a capital cause should not be decided in one day, then I believe that I should have convinced you. But I cannot, in a moment, refute great slanders, and, as I am convinced that I never wronged another, I will assuredly not wrong myself. I will not say of myself that I deserve any evil or propose any penalty. Why should I? Because I am afraid of the penalty of death which Meletus proposes? When I do not know whether death is a good or an evil, why should I propose a penalty which would certainly be an evil? Shall I say imprisonment? And why should I live in prison, and be the slave of the magistrates of the year, of the 11? Or shall the penalty be a fine, and imprisonment until the fine is paid? There is the same objection. I should have to lie in prison for money I have none and cannot pay. And if I say exile, and this may possibly be the penalty which you will affix, I must indeed be blinded by the love of life, if I am so irrational as to expect that when you, who are my own citizens, cannot endure my discourses and words, and have found them so grievous and odious that you will have no more of them, others are likely to endure me. No, indeed, men of Athens, that is not very likely. And what a life should I lead, at my age, wandering from city to city, ever changing my place of exile, and always being driven out. For I am quite sure that wherever I go, there, as here, the young men will flock to me, and if I drive them away, their elders will drive me out of their request, and if I let them come, their fathers and friends will drive me out for their sakes. Someone will say, yes, Socrates, but cannot you hold your tongue? And then you may go into a foreign city, and no one will interfere with you? Now I have great difficulty in making you understand my answer to this. For if I tell you that to do as you say would be a disobedience to the God, and therefore that I cannot hold my tongue, you will not believe that I am serious. And if I say again that daily to discourse about virtue, and of those other things about which you hear me examining myself and others, is the greatest good of man, and that the unexamined life is not worth living, you are still less likely to believe me. Yet I say what is true, although a thing of which it is hard for me to persuade you. Also, I have never been accustomed to think that I deserve to suffer any harm. Had I money, I might have estimated the offense at which I was able to pay, and not have been much the worse. But I have none, and therefore I must ask you to proportion the fine to my means. Well, perhaps I could afford a mina, and therefore I propose that penalty. Plato, Crito, Critobulus, and Apollodorus, my friends here, bid me say 30 minutes, and they may be the sureties. Let 30 minutes be the penalty, for which some day will be ample security to you. Not much time will be gained, O Athenians, in return for the evil name which you will get from the detractors of the city, which will say that you killed Socrates, a wise man, for they will call me wise, even although I am not wise, and they want to reproach you. If you had waited a little while, your desire would have been fulfilled in the course of nature. For I am far advanced in years, as you may perceive, and not far from death. I am speaking now not to all of you, but only to those who have condemned me to death. And I have another thing to say to you. You think that I was convicted because I had no words of the sort which would have been procured my acquittal? I mean, if I had thought fit to leave nothing undone or unsaid. Not so. The deficiency which led me to my conviction was not of words, certainly not. But I had not the boldness or impudence or inclination to address you as you would have liked me to, weeping and wailing and lamenting, and saying and doing many things which you have been accustomed to hear from others, and which, as I maintain, are unworthy of me. I thought at the time that I had not to do anything common or mean when in danger, nor do I now repent of the style of my defense. I would rather die having spoken after my manner than speak in your manner and live. For neither in war nor yet at law ought I or any man to use every way of escaping death. Often in battle there can be no doubt that if a man will throw away his arms and fall on his knees before his pursuers, he may escape death, and in other dangers there are other ways of escaping death, if a man is willing to say and do anything. The difficulty, my friends, is not to avoid death, but to avoid unrighteousness, which runs far faster than death. I am old and move slowly, and the slower runner has overtaken me, and my accusers are keen and quick, and the faster runner, who is unrighteousness, has overtaken them. And now I depart hence condemned by you to suffer the penalty of death. They go in their ways condemned by the truth to suffer the penalty of villainy and wrong, and I must abide by my award. Let them abide by theirs. I suppose that these things may have been regarded as fated, and I think that they are well. And now, O men who have condemned me, I would fain prophesy to you, for I am about to die, and in the hour of death men are gifted with prophetic power. And I prophesy to you who are my murderers, that immediately after my departure punishment far heavier than you have inflicted on me will surely await you. Me you have killed because you wanted to escape the accuser and not to give an account of your lives. But that will not be as you suppose, far otherwise. For I say that there will be more accusers of you than there are now, accusers whom hitherto I have restrained, and as they are younger they will be more inconsiderate with you, and you will be more offended at them. If you think that by killing men you can prevent someone from censuring your evil lives, you are mistaken, and there is no way to escape which is either possible or honorable. The easiest and the noblest way is not to be disabling others, but to be improving yourself. This is the prophecy which I utter before my departure to the judges who have condemned me. Friends who would have acquitted me, I would like you to talk about the things that have come to pass, while the magistrates are busy, and before I go on the place to which I must die. Stay then a little, for we may as well talk with other people while there is time. You are my friends, and I should like to show you the meaning of this event which has happened to me. O my judges, for you I may truly call judges, I should like to tell you of a wonderful circumstance. Hitherto, the divine faculty of which the internal oracle is the source has constantly been in the habit of opposing me, even about trifles. If I was going to make a slip or an error in any manner, and now as you see there has come upon me, which may be thought, and is generally believed to be the last and worst evil. But the oracle made no sign of opposition, either when I was leaving my house in the morning, or when I was on my way to court, or while I was speaking at anything which I was going to say, and yet I have been stopped in the middle of a speech, and now in nothing I either said or did touching the matter in hand as the oracle opposed to me. What do I take to be the explanation of this silence? I will tell you. It is an imitation that which has happened to me is good, and that those of us who think that death is an evil are in error. For the customary sign would surely have opposed to me had I been going to evil and not to good. There's no reason to fear death. Let us reflect in another way, and we shall see that there is great reason to hope that death is a good, for one of two things. Either death is a state of nothingness and utter unconsciousness, or, as men say, there is a change and migration of the soul from this world to another. Now if you suppose that there is no consciousness, but a sleep-like sleep of him who is undisturbed even by dreams, death would be an unspeakable gain. For if a person was to select the nights in which his sleep was undisturbed even by dreams, and were to compare this with the other days and nights of life, and then were to tell us how many days and how many nights he had passed in the course of his life better and more pleasantly than this one, I think that any man, I will say a private man, but even the great king will not find many such days or nights, when compared with the others. Now, if death be of such nature, I say that to die is gain, for eternity is then only a single night. But if death is a journey to another place, and there, as men say, all the dead abide, what good, O my friends and judges, can be greater than this? If indeed, when the pilgrim arrives in the world below, he is delivered from the professors of justice in this world, and finds the true judges who are said to give judgment there, Minos and Rhadamanthus and Aesis and Triptolemus and other sons of God who were righteous in their own lives, that pilgrimage will be worth making. What would not a man give if he might converse with Orpheus and Musaeus and Hesiod and Homer? Nay, if this be true, let me die a